Let's go over how to complete some of these My Programming Lab exercises. Let's go ahead and look at your first problem for Chapter 3.2. It reads, write an expression that evaluates to true if the value x is greater than or equal to y. So they're asking for the Boolean expression where you can check if x is greater than or equal to y. Remember, that's how we write it in Java. We can hit submit and we see that that's pretty okay. Let's go ahead and skip down here to a different programming problem that we have. And it says, assume that c is a char variable and has been declared and already given a value. So we assume that part of the program is already written. Write an expression whose value is true if and only if c is a new line character. So we'll put our c. Remember, we want a Boolean expression to check equality as equal equals. And the new line character is written. Remember, characters are apostrophes, and the new line characters are \n. You can go ahead and hit submit, and we see that's pretty okay. Let's skip down here to our last one that we'll do in this section. And it says, write an expression that evaluates to true if the value of the integer variable number of prizes is divisible with no remainder by the integer variable number of participants. So if we do this division, we want there to be no remainder. Now, how do we check if there's a remainder? Why, we can use our modulus operator. Remember, if the modulus returns 0, it means that number of participants divided into number of prizes evenly. So we can check to see if that returns a 0. Go ahead and hit submit and see that that looks pretty okay. Let's go ahead and look at Chapter 3.3. We'll go ahead and do the middle one here to help you out. It says, write a conditional that decreases the variable shelf life by 4 if the variable outside temperature is greater than 90. So we want to decrease this variable by 4. That's probably the best way to write that. But we want to do that if our outside temperature is greater than 90. Remember, we should indent correctly. Go ahead and hit submit and see that that looks pretty okay. Okay, let's go over this programming problem. And it reads, in mathematics, the square root of a negative number is not real. In Java, therefore, passing such a value to the square root function returns a value as not a number. Therefore, we need to check our input to make sure it's greater than 0. Given a double value named area of square, write the necessary code to read in a value the area of some square. We'll read it into area of square, and then we'll print out the length of the side of that square, so we have to take the square root of this number. If any value read is not valid input, we'll print the message invalid. And we're supposed to use the standard in as our scanner object. Our first step is to read in that double value and put it into our variable that's already been declared, called area of square. Then we check if that value that they inputted is less than 0, meaning that it's negative. If it is, we print the word invalid. Now, if it's positive or 0, it'll come to the else part of our code, where we've used the math function called sqrt to find the square root of that variable. Now, knowing what function to use might not come intuitively to you at first, so remember to look in your book or use Eclipse to help you with this part. Then we went ahead and printed out whatever we got back from that function, which is the square root of area of square. I can go ahead and submit this, and you can see we did a pretty good job. Now let's come down here to our last section that I assigned, and we'll do a programming problem in the middle of that section. And it says, write a conditional that assigns the Boolean value true to the variable fever if the variable temperature is greater than 98.6. So remember to write your if statement and check that variable temperature is greater than 98.6. What do we want to do if that's true? We want to assign a Boolean value true to the variable fever. Go ahead and submit that and make sure everything is working. All right, that's it on how to go over a few of those programming problems from my programming lab for Chapter 3.